An Oklahoma softball coach arrested what he's accused of doing to a 15-year-old student and the charges he's facing.
Plus, 3 children injured after police shot into a vehicle back in April trying to arrest a robbery suspect. The move the mother is now making.
And a Pauls Valley teen still missing after more than a month. Why her boyfriend now faces charges. News 12 at 6 starts right now.
Live from 12 Studios. This is News 12 at 6.
Good evening and welcome to News 12 at 6. I'm Jen Phillips.
And I'm Dan Thomas. Rattan High School's state champion softball coach has been arrested for inappropriately confronting and touching one of his players.
News 12's Stan Smith got the court documents and explains what else this coach is accused of doing.
Rattan High School softball coach Jeffrey Paul Watts was arrested Wednesday after an alleged incident that happened earlier this year in the team's weight room.
Well, I think it was about time something started happening around here.
Thomas Ray is a parent of kids that used to attend Rattan School. He says he heard about the incident months ago.
Supposedly they escorted him off school grounds and started an investigation a few months ago.
Court documents state Watts inappropriately touched a 15-year-old girl after a weightlifting session with the softball team in February. First, grabbing her by the ponytail, looking down her shirt to see the girl's tattoos, and then using both hands to brush down the front of her chest. The affidavit goes on that the girl believed Watts was trying to kiss her and turn her head away.
It really upsets me. I ain't got no use for people to do that stuff with kids. It ain't right. And they need the consequences for it.
During the investigation, deputies say another girl came forward saying Watts inappropriately touched her on the softball field in 2012 when she was 16, telling her she, quote, needed to run some of that off, end quote, while grabbing and slapping her buttocks. Other girls also told deputies they changed clothes on the bus coming back from softball games while Watts was the only adult on board.
Stuff's been covered up for a long time, apparently, the way everybody in town talks.
Watts, who's won multiple state championships at Rattan, declined to speak with investigators, but said through his attorney he denies ever inappropriately touching any student. School officials also declined to comment.
Probably needs a good long time in prison, if you ask me.
Watts has bonded out of jail. He faces up to 10 years in prison if convicted. In Rattan, Stan Smith, News 12.
Well, an arrest has been made in a year-old Pushmataha County murder. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation and Sheriff B.J. Hedgecock arrested Teeman Haskell Irwin for the murder of 35-year-old Richard Medlock in Albion. Authorities say Medlock was shot multiple times last November. OSBI says that they matched 9mm casings at the scene to a pistol seen in Irwin's possession. He's in jail for first-degree murder.
Well, a Hugo woman whose children were hurt this spring when police opened fire on a man in a truck with them has taken the first step towards suing the city. Olivia Hill's kids, who were all under 5 years old at the time, were inside a truck driven by her boyfriend, William Devon Smith. Smith was wanted for robbery, so when Hugo detectives saw him, they went to arrest him. Reports say Smith put the pickup he was sitting in reverse, hitting one officer. That's when shots were fired. 3 of the 4 kids inside were injured. They all survived, though. The tort claim filed last week seeks money for pain and suffering, medical bills, and more.
Well, the boyfriend of a 17-year-old Pauls Valley girl who's been missing now for more than a month has been arrested. Tanner Washington, accused of lying to police, making up a story about Lindsay having been shot. 17-year-old Faith Lindsay was reported missing back in November. The OSBI is handling the investigation. This past weekend, Lindsay's family searched Wewoka Lake, hoping to find her body.
Well, the Johnson County Sheriff's Office is seeking help to find $50 grand in equipment stolen from one of the county's district barns last month.
News 12's Shelby Dowler explains what was taken.
While shoppers were getting away with good deals the day after Thanksgiving, thieves got away with several $1,000s worth of equipment from the Johnston County District 3 barn, just north of Ravia. An off-duty dispatch supervisor reported strange lights at the barn around 6 p.m., and a deputy arrived a few minutes later.
The gate to the barn was open. The front door to the office was ajar, and there was also a couple of vehicles whose doors were open. And it was pretty obvious at that time that the barn had been broken into.
District 3 employees said 2 Chevy pickup trucks were gone, along with tools, computer equipment, diesel fuel, and a pump. The office was also ransacked and damaged. The sheriff's office says the combined cost of equipment stolen plus the damage totaled about $50,000.
Really, a burglary like this, when equipment is stolen that the taxpayers bought, all taxpayers of Johnston County are victimized.
One of the Chevy trucks was found the next morning, less than a mile west of the barn, but one is still missing along with some tools. The sheriff's office says it does have persons of interest, but no arrests have been made.
Any information may be helpful to corroborate some of the information we already have, or even dispel some of the information that we have.
Now, the sheriff's office is asking anyone with information on the crime or the stolen items to call the number on your screen. In Johnston County, Shelby Dowler, News 12.
Well, 3 people in Bryan County are wanted for burglarizing a storage building. Billy Brockus, John Holt, and Devette McEwen were all charged this week with burglary and larceny. Court documents say last September, the 3 broke into a storage building in Durant, stole $1,300 worth of tools and construction equipment. They also caused more than $2,000 worth of damage to the building. If convicted, they face up to 7 years in prison. If you have any information, though, you need to contact authorities.
Well, Ardmore police have arrested a man for failing to register as a sex offender. Court records show 28-year-old Zachary Pelton was convicted of second-degree rape in Pottawatomie County back in 2010. Police say that he was supposed to be living at a hotel in Ardmore. Instead, they found him living in an RV park. He now faces 10 years in prison if convicted.
Well, a man is in jail accused of trafficking a child to southeast Oklahoma. The Hopkins County, Texas Sheriff's Office says 19-year-old Raymond Larry had been communicating with the child and arranged transport for her to his location in Oklahoma. The girl was reported missing in November. Law enforcement was able to track down the child in the Idabel area. Larry is charged with human trafficking. Let's get a check on the weather now. Nature's spotlight is out tonight. A full moon in Texoma.
That's right. Chief Meteorologist Steve Lenore is tracking just what kind of viewing conditions we'll have this evening. Steve.
Yes, looking pretty lucky. We may have a ring around the moon. I can't guarantee that, but some high-level cloud cover. You may have noticed that if you stepped outside during the last hour for a pretty sunset, may also help to produce a ring around the moon. Either way, for sure, gonna be chilly, but not as cold as last night. Current numbers are generally running in the mid-40s. Antlers at 39, you have the exception there, 46 Ardmore, Sherman, and Denison. The reason for the change tonight, we have a southerly wind. Now, it's not very strong, running about 5 to 8 miles per hour, but that will keep the air stirred up and also bring in slightly warmer air. So it just won't be as cold tonight. Definitely in the coat zone this evening, but we're staying above freezing for much of the night in the upper 30s to around 40. And again, perhaps a ring around the moon for sure. It's going to be a big, bright, full one out there. And we'll check out your numbers through the weekend when I come back.
All right, thanks, Steve. Well, the rumbling near Coleman yesterday was not an earthquake. It happened on the Johnston-Atoka County line, measured a 1.9 on the Richter scale, but as it turns out, the Oklahoma Geological Survey says it was a company setting off explosives at a nearby rock quarry. No reports of injuries or damage.
Except to that rock quarry. Well, the chief of the Choctaw Nation has responded after Oklahoma's governor suggested tribes could lose exclusive rights to casino gaming in the state. In a statement, Chief Gary Batten says in part that the governor's threats could jeopardize billions in future dollars to the state, and he says it will be, quote, business as usual on January 1st. Governor Kevin Stitt says the tribe's 15-year compacts, which grant the tribes exclusive rights to gaming in the state, will expire on January 1st. He also says commercial casino operators are interested, and they've offered to pay 18% in taxes to the state. Tribal leaders say the compacts renew automatically. Well, a Texoma 7th grader holding a toy drive for the 5th year in a row. What happened to him 6 years ago that inspired him to donate to children staying in the hospital?
And getting a live look here outside our Team C Tower Camp. 75 flowing nice and smoothly. A beautiful sunset wrapping up out there. Steve is tracking the temperatures. Not going to be quite as cold as last night. He'll have the details on the next front arriving.